Hello friends and welcome back to the third video in this little pitching new projects with Florian series. So if you missed the previous two parts, and up there I'm going to be linking a playlist. In the last part we looked at how to structure a pitch email so that it actually gets read, and what to put in and what not to put in. We also briefly talked about how to find out who to send it to. And lastly, we've looked at my website, my Instagram, and really thought about, is it gonna be convincing for someone that first hears about me? And we came to the conclusion that it wasn't really there yet. There was room for optimization, and actually that's what we're gonna look at in today's video. Yesterday I've been doing a few little changes to my website and tweaked it way more in the direction where it would be clear what kind of content production projects I'm specializing in. And from my experience, this is very, very important, because the more you can boil it down to one kind of project that you do and one kind of client type that you do it for, the easier is it for them to understand and see themselves in that. And then of course also to justify why you're charging a lot of money for this. So today I want to show you exactly what kind of changes I did to my website to make it more convincing. And as soon as we've done that, if you remember in the first part, I also added this one step where I said that, hey, we're going to be doing something special to make our email, our outreach actually stand out from anyone else that might be trying to approach them. So later in this video, I actually want to talk you through that little creative idea that I had, that I thought I could add that to the email to really stand out and be memorable, because after all, that's the thing we're going for, right? We decided to go for the sniper approach, so to only approach a very small number of brands, but really targeted and only those where I see the best fit between me and them. Because if the approach that we're taking now doesn't work, we can always boil it down and make it more easy and simpler and then just send out way more emails. But while I'm not in an urgent situation where I desperately need a project, I might as well be only trying to go for the brands that I would really want to work with and get a very special project that fits perfect to my portfolio and is the next step ahead on the journey that I want to be going on. So, and with that, let's jump over to the computer and let me show what kind of changes I did to my website and my Instagram profile to really give a more specialized impression the first time that they hear about me. Okay, so now we're already here on the updated version of my website. So if you remember on the previous version, it still looks very much the same, because after all, I didn't want to get in that mode where you suddenly need to think like, oh, I need to completely redo my website and I need to put 2 or 3 weeks into that before I can actually now start doing something. Because from my experience, that very quickly leads to the moment where you get stuck in other things when you're not really focusing on what's most important, and that will be to get the next project. We can always make a big remodel of a website some other day when is a better timing for that. But right now, the only thing that I want this website to do is for the potential client for such a very specific topic. I want them to come here, read this through and think like, okay, yeah, wow, it looks like he can do that. He knows what he's doing. He's done similar kind of projects before. Let's actually give him a chance and just get on a call with him, because that's eventually what we want to happen from this entire thing. So I changed over here, I changed a little bit my job title or job description. So ultimately what I really want to promote first is the content producer. So not just the person holding the camera, but much more actually the person who's overseeing the entire production. In the long term, I'm also going to be offering consulting for smaller companies that might not be able to afford an entire project, but want to do the content production themselves. But I offer my knowledge as a consultant. And then in general, I want to point out straight away that this is mainly about video. It's about video. I was debating if I should use this photo or I have another photo where I'm with a big camera. I decided to leave this first. On the other one, my face is turned away from the camera. I thought this was friendlier, so I left this. What I really focused was to change this tagline and make it more specific, and here to put in a little bit of more info about a reference. And then when you actually click on this image, that you can have a brief summary about this project that I just recently done, and that is my main reference for what I'm trying to pitch right now. So my tagline before read a little bit like, I make videos for social media to tell the story of your brand, which was very vague. So I decided to go with, I help social media savvy brands to produce branding and advertising campaigns on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. So what do? I produce content for branding and advertising campaigns, which mainly is going to be video nowadays, right? And who do I do that for? Especially such brands that sell something directly to the consumer, something like clothing, something like helmets. That is all B2C, because you're directly selling to a consumer. And at the same time, the kind of clients that realistically are going to go for such a project are companies that already produce a lot of content on their social media and already know that it is proven worthy to invest in that. Because otherwise you would have to do a lot of convincing and it would be very difficult to charge the appropriate amount of money for this. And then I added one more sentence so that after that you should have a pretty clear picture in your head what I'm actually doing. I specialize in short form video content and video ads that promote your products and build your brand's audience. So for brands that are very active on social media, that sell something directly to the consumer and that want to make campaigns that are on social media first, that's exactly who I'm doing a project for. And then I made sure that I have directly such an example ready. And the thing here that I really thought about is I have a lot more references. I have references from image films, from content production for car manufacturers, from testimonial videos for a software company, but I don't want to show those because they don't speak to that kind of company that I'm trying to reach out right now. So instead, I just picked the main reference that I have and exactly that kind of project that I want to be doing again, which is the one that I told you about in part number 1. And here I very briefly described it. So in summer 2020, the team brought me in as a lead content producer to organize content production for a campaign. And then I summarized quickly the results that we had. So we put together this local adventure challenge with about 12,000 people taking part and 7 million impressions, so on. So the actual thing that I want here to happen is that people click on this image to find out more about this. And that is where I spend a little bit more time. I made this a little longer, one single page that from my point of view summarizes the most important things about that recent campaign that I did. Because eventually those kind of brands that I'm trying to reach out now, this is going to be super important to read through because it's very likely that they see themselves exactly in a situation that I've described here. So basically what I did is I briefly described how this entire thing came to be and gave a summary. I actually added the trailer that we produced for this campaign. And then I quickly summarized what was the main goal with the campaign, which was the core challenges that we had throughout the project, and in the end, what kind of results we gotten out of this. And this is a very important part because the moment that you really start getting paid more money is really when you figure out, okay, how does your video translate into some sort of a business benefit, more sales, more leads coming in, whatever it is. They want to be making more money. That's why they're paying you some to produce a video that in the end brings them way more money back. And just by giving them a couple of numbers here, the person who this set page is really for would be someone from a marketing team. They would very quickly get a feel for what those kind of numbers mean. And then I added a couple of photos, like my favorite pictures from this entire campaign, so that they would also see right away, hey, this was photo and video, which is, for example, on Instagram, super important. And then I added a couple of more video clips. Actually, if you want to, I'm gonna leave the link to my little website down below so you can go and have a check and read that through. And then I briefly describe what my actual role in this project was, because from the outside it can be quite difficult to understand, okay, what did you actually do now on this project? Which part did you play? How long were you involved? Which tasks did you do? And that exactly I listed down here. And then down here I actually also listed a couple of reasons why they actually ended up deciding to hire me for this, which in the end, if someone reads this through as a reference, could give them a first pointer if they want to get in contact with me or not. So, and the reason that I did this one-page reference summary was that I recently had 2 proposals that I sent out and that in the end did not go through. I was very sure that I could have pulled off both of those projects, but in the end I wasn't really 100% sure if the client saw that potential. And so I wanted to put together one page that very clearly stated that previous campaign, because from my point of view it ended up being a pretty cool reference. And if you find yourself in a situation now that you've made a whole lot of different sort of projects, my recommendation would be specialize on the one that you like most and that also might bring you the most profit from it, and then make sure that your portfolio or your website only talks about this, because then people see you as like, okay, that guy's only doing that and he's a specialist in this, instead of, oh, that guy makes car videos, he also makes photographs, because it usually means that you don't really know what you're doing yet and you're just trying to figure yourself out and take whatever project comes through the door, which is not really the impression that we want to give, do we? So that was the reason why I made this little page, and then I looked through my references and I found one similar reference that I have from 2 years ago, and this was actually for Epidemic Sound that I did. That also, as I explained it to you, happened that I proactively reached out to them. So when someone now that I'm reaching out proactively reads this page through and then they see this, actually gives me the credibility for someone then reading it through, seeing, oh, okay, this other companies have worked with this guy before, so there must be something to him and there must be a reason why they trust him and hire him for something like this. And then actually you can look through those videos. And any other reference that I have, and it's quite a few of them by now, I deliberately left out. So I did not make like a portfolio, car videography, corporate videography and all those sort of things. I cut that out completely and I only boiled it down to those kind of projects that I really want to be shooting and doing now. And then I made one quick little paragraph talking about video content and the huge importance that it will have, especially in 2021. And literally the only thing that you can then do is get in contact with me and send me an email. or respond to the pitch email that I sent them. So that was a quick summary of the changes on the website. And as I said, this took me about 2.5 hours to update this main page and then build the second other page. And I figured this should now speak to exactly those kind of people that I'm trying to reach now. So much to the website. Now let's jump straight over to my Instagram. And there, the main thing that I did is I also updated here my bio. And this one is not as sophisticated and serious because this one speaks to also the people that are watching my YouTube channel. So this is not deliberately directed to just business, but this is really just talking about myself. So here it says content producer, video nerd, cycling fanatic. I'm going to talk about this in a second. And then brief summary of my tagline: helping social media savvy brands produce branding and ad campaigns on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, plus my website. And if you noticed, if you don't follow me on Instagram yet, you should do that. I've recently started posting a lot more pictures exactly for that reason, to make sure my Instagram account just looks professional. Doesn't really matter to me how many followers I have because that's not the way I make money. Of course, more is always better because it gives you more credibility. But what's more important for me, that it looks like a nice cohesive feed with things that really speak for itself. And that's why also I added this cycling fanatic, because now, as we decided in the first part of the series, is I decided to really go for those kind of brands that are connected or directly in the cycling kind of industry, because that kind of a project would be most exciting to me. And that is actually what brought me to that little special extra something idea that I told you about in the beginning, which was our step number 6, I think. So let me tell you a bit about that idea that I had. So remember when in part 1 we actually picked those kind of brands that I would be reaching out to? A couple of them were because I found some products that I was about to order anyway. Right? So for example, I'd recently tried some cycling clothing from Decathlon, which was actually what brought me to this entire idea for the series. And I figured, hey, if I'm already reaching out to them, then I might as well just buy myself a set of nice new cycling clothes, and then go out and take a couple of pictures or a short little video or something like that. Put that right on my Instagram before I actually reach out to them, and maybe even put something in the email. Might just increase the chances that any of them might look at it and think like, wow, this is actually pretty cool. Because after all, that's the only thing that we can really achieve, for someone to get our email, and so that it stays really memorable and they think like, okay, yeah, this is actually something different. We haven't seen anyone reach out to us like this before. This has worked for me in the past. Let's try and see if it works now. And actually, I already went out yesterday and the day before for a little photo shooting session and for a second little thing that has to do something with an FPV drone. I wanted to add some cycling to my Instagram anyway, so I figured a couple of cool photos and clips wouldn't hurt for the moment that when I actually eventually reach out to them. And then maybe in 2 days from now, when the next episode's gonna come out, I'm gonna actually show what we went out to do and eventually showing you a couple of the results that then I will be using when I reach out to them. Thought that might just give you a couple of ideas how you could go about something like this yourself. Stay tuned, and maybe here comes a very, very brief teaser.